The car was going 122 miles an hour. At the time the car hit the tree, it was going 88 miles per hour.
You know, my son asked them to let him out the car, and he refused to let my son out the car. I don't know what my son experienced doing that, but like, you know, my son almost died twice.
When you're driving 100 miles an hour, you might as well have been throwing a loaded gun at each other, and you hope it doesn't go off because it hits the ground and someone gets shot. Okay. Then we're going to get on the record. It's position 27 on the calendar, 25 SC 006827, State versus Preston Cobb. Good afternoon, Mr. Cobb.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Mr. Cobb is in court with his lawyer, Ms. Rios. He is charged with 2 counts of serious injury by vehicle and 1 count of theft by receiving stolen property. At least that's what it says on the calendar. And Ms. Smith, representing the state, is going to start our plea conversation in just a moment. She'll put you under oath, and then you will be asked a bunch of questions you've already heard several times today. But it's your turn to answer the way you think is the correct answer. You need to make sure that you stop us if at any point you've got a question. If you're not following what's going on, or you just need a minute with Ms. Rios, will you let me know that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's start.
Mr. Cobb, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can lower your hand. Please state your true, correct, and legal name for the court.
Preston Cobb.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
Is there any medication that you would normally take that you haven't been given today?
No, ma'am.
How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
I'm 20 years old and I graduated high school last year of May, 2025.
Where'd you go to high school?
North Clayton High School in College Park.
Got it.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss your case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, are you satisfied that your client has a full understanding of this proceeding?
Yes.
Also, do you waive the formal reading of the indictment and any and all defects in the indictment for the purposes of this plea?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb, do you remember being arrested on these charges?
Yes, I remember being arrested.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Are you or your attorney aware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
No, ma'am.
Do you understand that this is a non-negotiated or blind plea and that the state would recommend a sentence to the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that the court can impose any sentence authorized by law, including a higher sentence than that recommended by the state, up to the maximum sentence on each charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this is a guilty plea which is permanently recorded on your criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're charged with a crime in the future, that this plea may be used to enhance that sentencing, including on a federal case?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on you entering a guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a United States citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be following a conviction from a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you also understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, you cannot use, receive, possess, transport, or own a firearm, and that if you did, you could be charged with another felony offense?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the following rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to see and hear the witnesses called to testify against you, the right to the assistance of counsel, either hired by you or court appointed if you cannot afford an attorney, the right to the presumption of innocence, which means that the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty of these charges, the right to testify on your own behalf or remain silent, the right to present other evidence of your own and call your own witnesses, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, are you satisfied that your client understands that these are the rights that they'll be waiving by entering this guilty plea?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb, has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter into this guilty plea today?
No, ma'am.
As to indictment number 25 SC 006827, how do you plead to count 1, serious injury by vehicle, count 2, serious injury by vehicle, and count 3, theft by receiving stolen property?
Yes, guilty.
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you do not have a direct right to appeal from your guilty plea? But if you believe that there is some type of error in your guilty plea, you can apply to the appropriate appellate court to request a discretionary appeal.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that that process has to be completed within 30 days from today?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have only 4 years from today for a felony charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Your Honor, if this case were to proceed to trial, the state would show that on.
Is Mr. Cobb pursuing this as a first offender?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll cover that with him. Is that something the state is opposing, is neutral on, or what's your view on first offender?
Leave it in the court's discretion.
Okay, we'll get to that. You were going to tell me about the facts of the case.
Yes, Judge. On June 18th, 2023, officers of the South Fulton Police Department responded to 2929, I'm going to spell it, BETHESDA Road. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, and also Fulton County. When the officers got there, they saw that a car had crashed into a tree, and that there were passengers inside of the car that were injured. The officers that responded, also EMS responded. They were able to take the passengers out of the car. All of them were kind of banged up, so they all went to Grady to be treated. In this case, the officers, after doing their investigation, found out that the defendant in this case, Mr. Cobb, was the one who was driving the car at a high speed before it hit a tree. The car that he was driving was a 2019 Kia Optima. It was stolen, and the person who owned that car, the officers got in touch with her, and she said she never gave her car away. She didn't know who Mr. Cobb was, and that she had reported it stolen. So the car that was used in this offense was stolen. The officers were able to get a black box from that Kia Optima that showed that 2.5 seconds before the crash, the car was going 122 miles an hour. At the time the car hit the tree, it was going 88 miles per hour. So the car was going pretty fast. In this case, there were 4 other passengers in the car, not including the defendant in this case. However, 2 passengers in particular they had pretty serious injuries. One of those victims being Darrell Wilson and the other person being Boss Newton. In this case, all passengers were transported to Grady Hospital, but their stays were a bit longer because of the injuries that they had. Because of this, the officers were able to determine that because the defendant in this case was the one that was driving and that it was a stolen vehicle, warrants were taken out and he was arrested for these charges that we have before us. Those are the facts of the case, all occurring in Fulton County. Regarding the recommendation from the state in this case, for counts 1 and 2, the state is asking for a 10 serve 5 with the balance probated. And regarding count 3, we're just asking for 5 to serve to run concurrent with the 10 serve 5 recommendation in counts 1 and 2. Regarding the special conditions of probation, we're just asking that the defendant have no contact with either of the victims, to complete an anti-theft course, to complete a defensive driving course, and also that was the last thing for the special conditions of probation. The state in this case did reach out to both of the victims. At the time, they were, I want to say juveniles. Right now, they're still young, maybe around 19, 20. But I was able to speak with the mom of Darrell Wilson. She's on the call. She would like to make a statement. However, from what I've gathered, Mr. Wilson, who was the person in the middle back seat, he cannot talk, cannot walk. He has a brain injury. He has a feeding tube. He's kind of bedridden. He goes back and forth to the hospital because sometimes he gets infections from sitting too long. And I'll let his mother in this case talk a little bit more about those injuries. The state did try to reach out to the next of kin for Boss Newton. However, we were not able to reach anyone, but we did get a chance to look over those medical records. And Mr. Newton, I believe all of his teeth were knocked out. He does have a brain injury and had a couple of fractured and broken ribs and bones in his body. So we weren't able to get an updated how is Mr. Newton doing in this case because we could not find next of kin. However, Ms. Wilson's mother is on the call and would like to talk about kind of how Mr. Wilson's life has been since this injury.
Okay, and I'll hear from her in just a moment. The indictment in count 2 says that the particularly serious situation for Mr. Newton was something about his leg. So some of the bones that were broken were in his leg. You mentioned his teeth got knocked out, but I'm assuming there's evidence that something happened to his leg.
Yes, Judge. The medical records are, of course, very long, but those some of the bones that were broken were throughout his body, but in his leg also.
Okay, got it. All right. So on the call, there is a Jada's iPhone, and then there is a Treese. I may not be pronouncing that correctly. I'm not sure which is Mr. Wilson's mom.
It's Treese, it's me.
Hey, are you Ms. Wilson? What's your last name?
Thompson. My name is Latricia Thompson.
Ms. Thompson, I appreciate you joining us. Let me add you to the screen here so that everyone can see you. So you are Darrell Wilson's mother?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and I am sorry what has happened to your family. We are almost 3 years into this, so whatever your son is having to deal with, if it's still going on, it sounds like tragically it's a permanent situation. Why don't you let me know how he's doing, how you're doing, and how this situation has impacted your family?
It's impacted us a lot, like, cause it changed everything. Now Darrell had to have 24-hour care with skilled nursing and unskilled nursing. His body contract like a baby fetus, so he can't stretch his legs out and he can't stretch his hands out, or his hands balled up. But I wish Darrell were here, but he had to go to the hospital emergency room because he was having a urinary tract, which he catched them throughout the whole 3 years. He been catching them back to back, so he had to go to the emergency room. So they changed his tubes and stuff like that. But he nonverbal. I wish Darrell was here so y'all could see him. I'm not mad at Preston. Only thing I just want to know, Preston, like, if them church asked you to stop, why you just didn't stop, baby? Because you changed everything. I don't want to see you go to jail, none of that. I don't want to see, like, this going on with my son. But at the end of the day, like, they asked you to stop. That's the only thing that I just don't understand. If them boys asked you to stop, why you didn't stop? Because Darrell didn't know none of y'all. He only know the boss. Boss introduced Darrell to them. And Darrell didn't go to school with you all. We had just moved to the neighborhood. We were new to the neighborhood. And he got the worst out of everything. And he just changed a lot. So, I don't...
Do you know, Ms. Thompson, you mentioned that your son knew Boss Newton. Do you know how Boss Newton is doing? Do you have any information on how he's doing?
No, the last time I talked to them, it's been like a year ago, and he was at home and stuff. You know, he walked with a limp. He missing like his top and his bottom teeth, and that's about it. But he was functioning, talking well.
Okay.
The real only one got the worst end.
Got it. Do you know anything about what happened? There were apparently 2 other young men in the car besides your son and Boss Newton and Mr. Cobb. Do you know anything about what happened to the other young men?
No, sir. I only seen all them 2. I only seen them when Darrell was in the hospital.
Yeah.
We didn't even know. I didn't even, like, I thought it was some boys that he normally hang around. I didn't never know them. He ain't never go to school with them. The real,
Yeah.
that's the first time meeting them.
Okay. And how is it that your household is able to afford 24-hour care? That sounds very expensive.
Yeah, through Medicaid, he received Medicaid. Medicaid help us out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that resource is there for you all, and I'm
Okay,
grateful.
he got, I don't know, it ruined Mr. Cause he ain't in the hospital, but if I turn, y'all can see he got a whole hospital bed. Like, see, he stay on medicine.
Oh, yeah.
This him when
Okay.
he was in rehab, but he got a whole hospital bed.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've been able to care for him, and I hope you have help. It's not just you. I know you said that there's in-home nursing. Are there others in your household who can help?
His sisters, he got siblings. We all,
Okay.
he got siblings.
Okay. Well, Ms. Thompson, it's been real helpful to hear from you, and our thoughts are all with Darrell. This isn't the kind of thing he's going to recover from. So like you said, it's life-changing for him. And here's Mr. Cobb standing in court. So it was a very different outcome for different people.
Yes. I just wish he would have stopped when the boys told.
Yep, I bet he does too. Well, you're welcome to stay on the call while we go through the rest of this, but thank you for being here.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Smith-Mann, any criminal history information for Mr. Cobb?
Yes, Your Honor. There are 3 prior cycles that are not including the cycle that is before you today. There is a 2024 battery against a female who is pregnant in Clayton County School, and it's Clayton County School Police to be exact. There is a 2026 Clayton County death by receiving stolen property, willful obstruction by law enforcement officers, driving without a valid license. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, you said there were 3 cycles, and you told me a battery against a pregnant female. That sounds
Right.
bad. And then very recently, driving without a license while you are awaiting resolution of a serious injury by vehicle case. But those were 2 cycles. What's the third?
Right. The third cycle was a willful obstruction that was dismissed, a theft by receiving stolen property that was dismissed from Clayton County in 2023.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Ms. Rios.
Yes, Your Honor. I want to start with having Mr. Davis talk first about the next level.
Okay. Hello again, sir.
Well,
How are you?
Good, thank you.
We have taken up a lot of your time today. I apologize. You've been very patient, and hopefully you've been able to attend to other things. You should cover whatever you want. You know, I'm familiar with the amazing work you and your program do. So I don't need to hear so much about that. I'm more interested in what you know, if you know anything yet about Mr. Cobb. He's in a real awkward situation right now.
Yes, just hearing the facts, just so unfortunate, you know, just my heart goes out to his family just to happen to just have a sudden change. These are a little different than me coming in front of him. Normally it's kind of straight to the point, but you know, I've had an opportunity. This young man has been in the program now. His attorney reached out, but I have some history with him. Some years ago, maybe when he was like 12 or 13, his family was bringing him on a preventive measure. He never made any type of trouble. They was brought into it. I think he came by way of someone from the church, and we really liked him. So it was a loss of contact. I don't know if it was a transportation issue, something like that. But you know, I often try to, especially when I come in front of you, I try to explain. I'm sure you hear this all the time. How do we get here? Like, what is the codependency? How do you end up in a vehicle, whatever? And I'm sure 90% of the people that come before you, Judge, have some type of family dynamics that leads to this. This young man here, he lost his father the weekend of his 8th grade graduation. He did begin to live with his grandmother and help care for her. And shortly after losing his father, he loses his grandmother. So he has all this trauma, all this depression, all this grief that's on top of all that. And I just think that at that time is he began to reach and search and try to find somewhat another family. And just the, you know, just unfortunate situation. And yeah, so he's been in the program, he's doing well. I just really wish that had I known, I was really wish that the family would have been able to keep him with us. But I always just try to give them credit because they try to get ahead of it. I think when he lost his father and all that, they just wanted to get ahead of it. But again, it's so unfortunate. Great young man. He's been accepted to the program. You know the rest, how we work close with the courts. And should you grant him this opportunity, the relationship that we have with the courts and probation, that we would, even if we had to do some additional things to hold him accountable. But I just got a chance to get to know the family over the years. It's just so unfortunate. He's an amazing young man. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here again, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, sir.
One life at a time.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rios.
Yes, Your Honor. In regards to this situation, this happened 3 years ago. At the time, he had just turned 18 years old. The friends that he were in the car with that are the victims in the case, they picked him up. It's basically a joyriding situation. They went to one of the friends' house, hung out, and they got back in the car with Mr. Cobb being the driver, and there was music playing. They were being rowdy teenagers, and mistakes were made. And they were very, very big mistakes that he regrets, and he's very remorseful of the situation. He also, he was even arrested for a while after the situation because he was also in the hospital. I know his injuries are not comparable to what the victims in the case are dealing with, but he had also a traumatic brain injury that he still suffers from, that's affected his intellectual ability. And he's ongoing seeing a doctor for that. He had other injuries with his leg, broken leg, collapsed lungs. So he was in the hospital for months and months, also dealing with the injury he just made. He has made a decent recovery, but is still suffering from that. As you know, 18-year-old brains not developed, not making the best decision, and unfortunately just had very bad consequences for everyone involved in the situation. So far, he's been trying to do well. He's now 20 years old. He graduated from high school. He has one daughter who turns 2 in July. He's employed. He's working at Amazon, preparing customer service orders. And he's been trying to take care of his child and help out his mom and do good. I do understand the seriousness of what happened and how this has had very serious effects for the victims in this case. I just don't believe him going to prison for 5 years serves anyone. We heard the mother of the victim in the case that she doesn't even think that he should go to prison. I get the serious.
I do. I think he should.
Yeah, I do too.
Hey, both of
Dad
you,
do too.
stop, Dad. You'll get a chance. It's not your turn right now, so let's not interrupt. All right.
This wasn't a malicious, intentional act. It was a thoughtless and an act of someone who did not have a fully developed brain at the time, being that he was a teenager. I'm asking for on count 1 and 2, the theft by receiving to be 10 years on probation, with the 5 years to serve on the back end and to suspend if he has no further convictions. And on count 1 and 2, and then count 3, the same sentence with if he doesn't have any trouble for those 10 years, for the 5 years in prison to be suspended, and for him to be treated as a first offender.
Okay, so first offender I get, and we'll cover that, but you're asking for one of these backloaded sentences where if Mr. Cobb over the next 5 years makes good choices and stays out of trouble and whatnot, then that would be evidence that he has turned a corner, and the remaining 5 years would be a sentence, but they would not be custodial. They'd be suspended so that if something happened year 6, one could still deal with it, but he's not in custody.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I'm gonna come to you in a minute, Mr. Cobb. Ms. Smith, I believe Darrell Wilson's father is now on. I don't know if you were expecting him. I'm happy to hear from him as well. He kind of barged in while Ms. Rios was talking. Is that someone you've had contact with as well?
I spoke with Mom. She said that other family members may want to speak, including his dad. So
Okay. All right, Mr. Wilson, if you want to unmute, if there's something you want to share with me, I would like to hear from you now.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Well, I'm all right. This is a pretty sad situation that we're working through. I got to hear a lot about how your son's doing from his mom, and that was hard to hear.
Right. Well, I think he should get whatever Matt sent him because, my son did ask him to let him out the car. My son asked him to let him out the car, and he refused to let my son out the car. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one thing. And, I don't know what my son experienced doing that, but it's been a bad experience for me and his mom and his family and the rest of our family. My son almost died twice. We've been dealing with more than enough. Still to this day, we back and forth to the hospital and, all that. So, I ain't trying to, keep y'all alone, but I think he should be getting way more than house arrest. Cause my son, what I'm saying, was, technically on the right path. They went all doing right, but my son didn't want to take that ride. And he made my son take that ride. So I don't think he should be getting no light sentence and none of that.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate you joining us. I understand your perspective on this. And I am glad that your son has both you and his mom in his life trying to help him work through all this.
Right.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Ms. Smith, both Mr. Wilson's mother and his father they've echoed each other that they believe at some point the passengers were saying either slow down or let me out. Is there something in the body of evidence you have about that, or is that something that Mr. Wilson's parents would know because somehow he was able to communicate that to them?
So during the officer's investigation, one of the passengers in the car that was not severely injured told other family members that they asked him to stop and they asked him to slow down, but he refused. He went fast and he couldn't use it. But that's not something that the passenger said directly to officers. However, during their investigation, that is something that they became privy to.
Okay, so you've heard that theme as well. You're not hearing it for the first time from Ms. Thompson or Mr. Wilson.
That's correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Young, sir. Me and his mom actually visited him while he was in his coma, and he said that himself, while he was in his coma, he said Darrell asked me to let him out before he even put the car in drive. My son asked him to let him out the car. I don't know about nobody else, but he said out here on mouth that my son asked him to let him out the car off the rip. Cause my son, no, I don't even, he know better. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what they communicate. My son couldn't communicate with the officer.
Right.
And Preston was the one that came to pick the boys up. Them boys didn't have no car. Preston was the one that came and picked them up. His mama had a video, but she deleted the video of him telling the story that them boys told him to stop. He said that himself when he was in the hospital because it wasn't nothing wrong with Preston. Preston, like he functioning now, he was functioning then. I ain't never known about a brain injury. His mama, she stayed by my baby bedside because she thought my son was gonna die. She the one called me and told me what was going on. I didn't even know that my son had been in an accident
Okay.
until Preston mom called.
All
But
right. Well,
she
I'm glad
knows
she
that.
called you. Okay. All right. Thank you both. Ms. Rios, I'm going to ask Mr. Cobb in just a minute if there's anything he wants to add, but I wanted to come back to you because we've been a little dynamic here in our
I want to
exchange.
make sure his mom, she thinks she want to say something. And I also do have documentation from a doctor about his brain injuries.
Okay.
Severe.
All right. Well, what order would you like to go? Mr. Cobb, are you going to say, you don't have to say anything at all, but you have an opportunity to if you want to. You do want to say something?
Yeah.
All right. Should we have your mom go first?
All right, I just wanted to just give my input on this case, because like I said, this is an unfortunate situation.
Okay. We need to start first with your name.
Oh, Brenda Cobb.
You're Miss Cobb. All right, Miss Cobb. And you are Preston Cobb's mother. Thank you for being here. It's good for him that you're here. I do want to hear from you. This isn't he said, she said time to say, oh, those Wilson parents don't know what they're talking about. That's not going to help your son right now. But I do want to hear from you about your son, because of course the part I'm focused on is the terrible decision he made that night. And I know he's more than that. He's been alive for 20 years, so there's good in there as well. And so if you want to tell me about that, I'd love to hear about it. I heard some already, but you are uniquely positioned to help me understand that Mr. Cobb is more than a kamikaze driver in June of 2023. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so since this incident happened, it has impacted Preston. Preston, of course, all of them were in the hospital. Of course, I reached out to the family because no one could contact them. And the officer that was on the case said, hey, this is their address, because no one could contact the family, or whatever. So I ended up getting the address and knew where that was, which was near my house. And I was able to go to the door and, hey, it was hard for me to go to somebody and say, hey, your son has been in an accident, but hard for them to ask, well, what happened? Who did it? You know what I'm saying? And it's hurtful for me because everybody's life has been impacted. You know what I'm saying? His life has changed forever. Everybody's life has changed forever. Even when we was in the hospital, I was by their side because I felt their pain. Even though my son was on one level up, I was down there on their level too, because I felt it was my duty to be there for everybody. And Preston did go through. He was in a coma too. He couldn't speak, He still today, has issues remembering things. I have to coach him. I have to pretty much baby him, but he's in a form where he can move. So it has impacted him as well. No parent would think that they will go through something like this because I didn't raise Preston. He didn't grow up in a household to hang with the wrong people. I didn't raise him. I've always coached him to make the right decisions. And unfortunately, it happened. He's accepted, and he's accepted what he did was, wrong by getting behind the wheel. But Preston he was picked up from my house. It was on camera. He was picked up, and that was given, all that information was given to the officer. And what happened after him getting behind the wheel, or what made it happen, I wasn't there. I don't know what played a role in or what was going on in the car. He don't even remember what happened still to this day. He just know I blacked out. We don't know.
Your son was talking in his coma.
Mr. Wilson, I'm going to have you drop from the call if you keep interrupting, okay?
And it's just an unfortunate situation. But since Preston, he didn't just get out the hospital and come home. He left the hospital after being there for a period of time. He had to go to the Shepherd Center. He had to learn how to rewalk, it's a lot of things he had to do. And then when he came home, he had to be, had to have come in, people, a nurse come in and look after him while I was at work, and still me having to take him to physical therapy. So it wasn't a, you know, I got out and he, you know what I'm saying? He had to go through some things as well. But, you know, since it has happened, you know, Preston has stayed out of trouble. He has finished high school. He hasn't, and he has maintained employment for the past 3 years. So that just, you know, right there speaks level, because he could have had this and continue getting in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I just, you know, want to say to the family, I'm sorry that happened, because, you know, we never expected this, you know. You know, we never expected this. We as parents, we can coach our children and, you know, hope they do the right things, but, you know, I'm not here to put the blame on nobody's child, because all my kids made a bad decision, and that, unfortunately, it has changed everybody's life, regardless of what condition somebody in. But I know that whatever happened that night, it wasn't nothing intentional. It's just that it was a bad decision. Because I could be on the other end and be trying to understand why, but I can't ask myself why. But he has accepted that I did wrong, and I never should have, you know, I should have listened, because it goes from not listening. So, you know, that's all I want to say.
Do you know, Ms. Cobb, how any of the other young men are doing? I don't know if any of those kids, they were kids then, were closer to your son, and so you might have a connection through those families, so you could say, yes, one kid, there were no injuries, another kid, he lost his left leg, or...
Well, as far as who he was hanging with, these wasn't Preston's friends. It was just, hey, I think three of the other ones, they went to the same high school, and then, like I said, I don't know, Preston didn't know Darrell, but it's more like someone knew someone else. And
right, Boss knew Darrell, and he brought Darrell along. And my question isn't who knows whom so much as if you are aware of how the other young men are doing. I know how Darrell is not doing, which is not well at all. And we heard a little bit about Boss Newton. There were some issues, but the prosecution team couldn't track down his family.
Right, as far as, I don't know their condition, because, you know, from the hospital, there was some, you know, situations where I had to, you know, step back and just for legal purposes, step back, because it was more of other issues going on. Then let's focus on what's at hand, our children's well-being. But, you know, I just know what injuries they sustained, because my insurance, you know, had to deal with me and, you know, compensate Darrell and the other three. But as far as how they are doing, it was just, you know, I need to step back and, you know, just like he couldn't have me contact, I needed to do the same.
Okay, got it. Well, I appreciate you being here for your son. It's a good sign for him. He's got family behind him. I know you're not the only one here for him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rios, anyone else besides Mr. Cobb?
Do you want to speak? I'm sorry, I think his other grandmother, Ms. Jones wants to speak.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. State your first and last name. Joyce Jones.
Hello, Ms. Jones. Tell me your connection to Mr. Cobb. Your grandma. Okay, what do you want to share with me?
That Preston, unfortunately, just to stay in tune with what has been said, Preston has never been a bad kid. He's always been a kid that pretty much listen to what we tell him to do. And, you know, it's just, when kids get together, they have a tendency to make bad decisions. And that was one of the ones he made. And it wasn't because he was trying to be ruthless or trying to be out of pocket. My mind is wondering.
That's okay. I know what you're saying. This isn't a situation where he said, I'm going to get these guys. Yeah, I'm gonna drive a car into a tree. That doesn't make sense because, of course, he was in the car, and so he was just as at risk of going through the windshield and dying as anyone else.
And my heart do go out to the family tremendously. You know, we are very, very hurt that the family have to endure this. But, you know, it wasn't something that was set out for revenge or any type of malice whatsoever. And, you know, we just want them to understand that, you know, we don't want for their child to be suffering, just like we don't want our child to suffer as well. You know, and you know, even if he had to do community service some kind of way for that, to attain that, we do mean well for their child, and we mean well for Preston as well. And you know, we just like for them to just take another breath and just say, hey, that was an intention.
I hear you, and it's not their job to forgive. They may get to that point, but that's not their role. Their role is to lift up their son, and they're trying to do that. And it is for them, I think, going to be a forever issue. It doesn't sound like, I'm not a doctor, but it doesn't sound like Darrell is going to suddenly wake up one day and be able to uncurl his hands and move his legs again. So I hope that the family is able to move forward, but I also hear you loud and clear that this isn't one of those cases where there is the bad guy who was out to get other people. That would be maybe if he pushed the car off a cliff with the other people in it, and he wasn't, and that wasn't this case. Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cobb, it is your turn if there's anything that you want to say, but like I said, you're not required to say anything at all.
I just want to say I'm fully sorry for what happened that day. And like I said, I didn't do it intentionally. I never told nobody they couldn't get out of the car or nothing. It was like we was all in the car. Everybody was jumping around. We was just, I guess we were just being lit at the time, and then everything happened. But ever since that day, like, you know, I distance myself from that type of people. You know, these was people that stayed in my neighborhood. We all clicked up, and I just wanted to fit in with them because what I thought was cool, what they was already doing, I had thought it was cool. I started getting mixed up with it, but I tried my hardest to stay away from situations that I know will put me back in the place I'm in now.
Talk to me a little bit. I don't want you to tell me facts about it because it may be an open case, but it sounds like just a couple months ago, you got arrested for driving without a license.
No.
No?
No.
I see Mom, but I'm not asking you, I'm asking him.
But I was arrested for a 2023 case that I had completed. That was when I was in school. I was rearrested because I guess however they do the court system in Clay County, they didn't never clear it because the plan, what the judge told me was I do the program and they expunge it off my record, but I guess they didn't never finish doing it. So when I got in the car accident with my mother, when the lady was writing the police report, she got my license and seen that everything that I had already did my stuff for, I still had an active warrant, so I had to redo the process and repay the money, but I got everything back and everything has been cleared.
Okay. So the arrest that we heard about from February of this year was sort of a rearrest for something that happened a long time ago.
2023, but I was not driving. Okay. I was not driving or nothing. It was just
in February of this year, you weren't driving.
Never driving.
It just was for something in 23.
Yes.
Okay. That fits a little more because Ms. Smith-Man mentioned something about 23. Do you have anything different on that?
I do see the arrest from this, but I also do see a similar case from 2023.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No shit.
Okay. Well, Mr. Cobb, I find that there is a factual basis for your plea. You were driving this car super fast, it hit a tree, and there were tragic consequences. We had a case like this that went to trial not too long ago, that even older than this, and it was even worse outcome. It was friends who were, what'd you say? We got lit, they were goofing around, cement wall, two of them died. And issue was a little different because they couldn't quite tell who the driver was. The accident was so bad and bodies were everywhere. So the big debate was who was driving. Here, we don't have that struggle. But it's the same situation where they're all friends. So it's not someone's out to get someone else. It's just this question of recklessness and what are the consequences for that. So I do find a factual basis. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary, meaning you've understood what we've talked about. You've told me you don't have any questions, and it's voluntary. No one's forcing you to enter this plea. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
So I'll accept your plea. Ms. Rios, can someone in my office sign the indictment for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Smith? And Mr. Cobb, is it okay if we sign the indictment for you indicating your guilty plea?
Yes, sir.
You want to be sentenced as a first offender. You qualify for that. You don't have any felony convictions. This is on the more serious end of things to get first offender. But if you are sincere in your commitment to making better choices going forward, first offender protects you in the sense that there'll be a sentence and there'll be consequences for this. But unlike Mr. Wilson's situation, they won't be forever consequences because at the end of your sentence, if you did well, it can all be sealed up and you can try to move forward in life. First offender, that's the benefit, is that it can come off your record. The risk is that while you're under this sentence, if you mess up and get in new trouble for something, you'll have the new charges, but you also can have your first offender status taken away and you can be resentenced as if you pled guilty and we start all over again. So it could be a worse outcome than it is today. Do you understand how first offender works?
Yeah, I understand.
Do you want to be treated as a first offender?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll do that. So I'm talking to you, Mr. Cobb, but I hope Mr. Wilson's family is listening, and I know your mom and your grandmother are listening. This isn't about who picked up whom. It really isn't. It doesn't matter who started out driving. It's about who was driving those seconds leading up to impact. And that was you. It wasn't anyone else. It wasn't Mr. Newton. Clearly wasn't Mr. Wilson or the two other guys in the car. And so you all may have been doing kind of the same kind of things. And it's kids goofing off, but it was goofing off as if you were playing with a loaded gun. When you're driving 100 miles an hour, you might as well have been throwing a loaded gun at each other, and you hope it doesn't go off because it hits the ground and someone gets shot. You are not a professional race car driver, and your ability, none of the guys in the car, to figure out what to do when there's a sudden turn or there's a tree in your way going 120 something bad's going to happen. And I don't believe for a moment that you had it out for anyone in that car. Because the way to get at someone is not to drive a car you're in into a tree. It would be to do something to them when they're not in the car or hit them with the car. So I don't think this was, your grandmother used the word ruthless or malicious. I don't think you wanted anything bad to happen to anyone, including yourself. But what you did was so dangerous and so reckless. It clearly had consequences for you. You were injured, but just hearing about the consequences for Darrell Wilson, I don't know how Boss Newton is doing. I don't even have names for the other guys. It's this kind of situation where there are repercussions for those other consequences. And while I appreciate that since that time, you've done pretty well. There was an arrest for battery against a pregnant female. I don't need to hear about it. It's just an arrest. But by and large, we certainly haven't repeated this. You didn't get arrested again for speeding in a crazy way somewhere or getting into a wreck. But we can't erase this. This doesn't go away. And part of what we do when judges are thinking about what's the right sentence, you want to rehabilitate, and you've brought in resources that are all about rehabilitation. But there is sometimes a punishment aspect to sentencing because what happened was wrong and it had real serious consequences. And I have to weigh that as well, and deterrence to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. I think what you went through and what you've learned, I'm gonna call them your friends for purposes of this case. You knew these guys. what they've gone through hopefully would deter you from doing this again. But there's the reality of what Ms. Thompson and Mr. Wilson are having to work through and support for the rest of Darrell's life. And when I weigh all that, Mr. Cobb, I think that the right sentence in this case is an overall sentence of 7 years to serve 2 years with a balance on probation. It is a custodial portion that reflects the seriousness of what happened and the tragedy of what happened and the fact that punishment flows from making those kinds of decisions. I understand the recommendation of 5 years, but I also very much understand dumb things that 18-year-olds do. I have an 18-year-old son, and he is smart, like you're smart, but he's also dumb because he's 18. And he will make bad decisions. And you made going that fast with all those people in the car, who knows who was wearing a seatbelt and who wasn't, a tragically bad decision. And it has cost Darrell Wilson his ability to move about in life like every young man would like. You've still got all those freedoms. And once you serve your time and you'll be paroled, you have no criminal history, you'll gain all those freedoms back in a way that Darrell won't. If you want to have a family, if you be able to care for your mother and your grandmother, have a career, be a senior executive at Amazon, not just a guy doing customer fulfillment. Those are all possibilities for you that were taken from Darrell because of the decision you made. So I'm just trying to explain to you the thinking behind what I'm doing. I am not deaf to the good things that people have said about you, and they're all true. You are more than what just happened today. And that's why you'll be able to be all those things when you're done with the custodial part of your sentence. You will then be on probation. It's a first offender sentence. The only special condition of probation that I'm imposing is that you need to have no contact with any of the people who are in the car or their families. So even though you may want to reach out to Mr. Wilson's family to say, hey, just want to see how Darrell's doing, that outreach would need to come from them. And if they want to check in, they could do that. But they're going to do their best to move forward, and you won't be a part of that. You have done well while you have been out on bond. And so I'm okay with a delayed reporting date. In other words, you don't have to go into custody right now. I'll give you an opportunity to talk with Ms. Rios about when you want to turn yourself in. It's here. You come back to court. It's not months from now. It would be in the next few weeks that you need to come back here. But I'm going to let you and your family and Ms. Rios talk about that. And then you can let me know if you want to just get started today or if you want to have a reporting date. But know this, in case you get any thoughts about, well, I could use the delay reporting date as a way to get somewhere else. If you're not here on the date and time we agree on, then I will follow the state's recommendation. And the sentence that I'm not actually signing any paperwork today. I sign the paperwork whenever you turn yourself in. So if you want to go in today, I'll sign it today. If we agree it's date X, then I'll sign that paperwork. But I'll actually have two different sentences. I'll have the 7 to do 2. I'll also have the 10 serve 5. And if you're not there on the day you're supposed to turn yourself in, I'll sign the 10 serve 5. You'll bot yourself 3 more years in prison. And eventually you're going to run a stop sign, you're going to get pulled over, and that warrant will be sitting there, and you'll need to deal with that. So I encourage you to be here on the day you need to be here, assuming you want a delayed turn-in. Did you and Mr. Cobb talk about that at all, Ms. Rios?
Not a turn-in date, yes. We'll go outside.
Okay, please do. One last thing. I didn't impose as a special condition participating in any programming only because I'd want to give Mr. Cobb the opportunity to think through what's the best fit when he gets out. And that's a great program, and he'll still be of age to be in it. But that's a decision for family to make when he's finished up with the custodial portion. Okay. Before you go, do you have any questions about anything I've said about your sentence?
No, I understood everything you said.
Okay. Go chat with Ms. Rios and let me know. Is Mr. Clark in the courtroom? Hey, Mr. Clark, if you could come on up to the podium. So, Ms. Niles gave me a summary of what you're trying to do and the situation we bumped into. In order for me to authorize you to not have to pay the filing fees, I need something more than just your say-so. And it's not me doubting you. It's just we're required to have documentation that you qualify. It's an EBT card, or it's something from the Department of Labor saying Mr. Clark hasn't worked the last 2 quarters, or because they would have a record if you were working. It sounds like right now you don't have something that falls into any of those
I
categories.
just got the paper from True Light when they let me go when I got laid off. And
Right, but the problem is, I don't know that since you got laid off by True Light, you didn't start working for Wells Fargo or for Amazon. And you're saying no, but I have to ultimately have documentation that we put in there, because Bill Gates could come in and say, I'm not working at Microsoft anymore. And he can't get one of these. He would need to document that he's been unemployed for a while. So you can get something from the Department of Labor. They are able to generate that because they have a record of earnings, and it would show for the last quarter you didn't earn anything. Some people use as a proxy, they have a EBT card, and you can't qualify for that unless you are struggling economically. But I don't have that kind of evidence from you, and that's what I would need to see in order for me to give this the green light.
so today is the 7th day of the the apartment is already paid in full. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get this on my eviction on myself. So how much time I got? Because I caught the train and the bus, and the day the 7th day.
So if the rent is paid in full, you owe $8,000 to the landlord. Why would they be evicting you?
Oh, they're not gonna do it, but I'm trying to make sure no evictions on my record from here on out. Because I just put the check in their hand the other day ago.
So you're good, but with you won't be evicted. You want to keep your record clear.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Fair question. I don't know that you need to appeal the ruling so much as you could get it set aside. But it's a good question. I haven't run into someone. Usually the scenario is, hey, I haven't paid, I'm hoping to pay, and I want to appeal because maybe that'll freeze it, which it won't, because as you've learned, you got to put money either in the registry or into the hand of your landlord. Of course, that begs the question of, if you just gave them $8,000,
I paid in full.
okay, you paid in full, you gave them $1 million. How is it that you're coming in here saying,
Because I was told this is my first time, so I don't want no eviction put on me. Like
I understand.
my record. When I move from there, I want to be able to get another place in my name.
Right, because that little mark will follow you around. Yep. So if they don't evict you, if they don't get a writ of possession,
Yes, sir.
then they're not evicting you. So that's what I can tell you. If you can get me some documentation from the Department of Labor or something else, I don't mean to limit you to that. If there's some other way you can show me the piggy bank is empty,
Absolutely.
or I haven't been working, or I've got the EBT card. Those are the ways we go about it. The tricky part about the piggy bank is empty is you could say, look, there's nothing in my Chase account, but no one knows that in your Wachovia account, there's $100,000. Because I don't know all your bank accounts. That's why Department of Labor is pretty thorough, and then the EBT card.
So I have to, today by being the 7th, I still have to have this done. This have to be done today.
If you think that you have to have a petition of review filed, then yep, I guess if this is the 7th day. But if it's paid in full and you aren't in fact going to be removed, they aren't going to get a writ of possession, then you may not have an issue anyway.
Okay. Then.
And that's a great question to ask folks at the, I don't know if you got help from the landlord tenant clinic, but there are people who could answer that for you that, hey, no harm, no foul, because they never got that writ of possession.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm here tomorrow doing the same thing. If you do, I understand that's day 8. I get the math, but you may still want to do something. And so if you get documentation, or you end up talking with someone who gives you a better sense of how this will all flow, don't be shy about coming back here, if you need to do that, okay?
Okay.
All right, Ms. Rios and Mr. Cobb, if you all will come back up, please.
Your Honor, we would request a turn-in date of June 1st.
Okay, I can't say no to that because I just said yes to that. So we'll do June 1. That is 3 weeks and a few days from now. It's going to be a complicated few weeks for you, because you know what's coming, and it's not a happy thing that's coming. My counsel to you is make good choices between now and then. And most of all, be here, this courtroom, you've been here before, by 9 o'clock on June 1. I will be here. In fact, I'll probably be sitting right here because we're supposed to pick a jury that day.
You be here.
You need to be here. Don't bring lots of extra stuff, because whatever you're wearing, I don't know that you'll see again. So don't bring a nice watch or this or that. Just real basic clothes. But come here. Don't go to the jail. And then deputies will take you in and we'll go from there. Okay? You've got it tomorrow, and I don't want you to lose sight of that. You're going to do some time for this tragic outcome. But then you'll be done with that time, and you can move forward in a way, like I said, Mr. Wilson won't. And this isn't going to heal Mr. Wilson. And I don't expect his parents to say, great, we're all set now. But it helps everyone understand that what happened to him meant something. And that there are consequences for the person who brought it about, unintentionally, but who nonetheless brought it about. Okay?
I understand.
I will see you on what day?
June 1st.
June 1st, 9 a.m.
9
Feel free to be early. If you're going to be late, you need to be blowing up Ms. Rios's phone saying, I'm on my way. Look, here's my camera. I'm filming. I'm on I-20. And she'll let me know, and we will be relaxed about it. But if it's 9:15 and there's no sign of you, then I sign the 10-5. Okay?
I understand.
All right. Reach out to Ms. Rios if something comes up between now and then.
I got you.
All right. Ms. Rios, anything else?
Your Honor, thank you.
It would be 7 to serve 2 on all 3 counts, and they'd all run concurrently. Ms. Smith, anything else in Mr. Cobb's case? Is the theft by receiving? It can't. Really? It must have been a cheap car.
No, you're correct. You're correct. You're correct.
No, it's more than $5,000. So it's, yeah, 7 to do 2 on all 3 counts. All right.